what's wrong with having a boyfriend? What's wrong with having a girlfriend? Like, what's wrong with it? What, as long as you don't get pregnant, or as long as you don't, like,
And
what's
it's
wrong
between
with love?
behind closed doors. No one gets
closed
hurt.
doors.
What's
Or
it-
for example, even cohabitation. Why do people have to get married if a person is committed to a woman and they live together? Like, what's the problem?
And that's why, because verse 2 immediately starts with punishing those who commit zina. I don't start that way, because what if in the audience someone is like, and that's the theme of every sitcom and movie and
Of course.
novel, and so
No, but like that's not even the theme. It's the fact that the idea and the value that love should prevail,
yeah,
right? Regardless of gender, regardless
Yeah.
of everything, is commonplace and pushed as mainstream. So then it becomes a question of like, why cannot love prevail? Why is and this even going on the idea of like, if people are committed, then what's wrong with that?
yeah. So that's why, instead of just starting off with verse 2, whip immediately, we actually spend, and as much as I try to shorten this time, we spend about 50 minutes going through the effects of zina on society. Research conducted in America, research conducted in Canada, what happens to the children of zina, to the siblings of zina, to the parents of zina, to the spouse of someone who commits zina. And there's just the effects. You cannot tell me after that hour of going into it that, oh, it's just two people who love each other behind closed doors. No, it spills beyond those doors. And like crazy statistics, like 82% of teenage mothers are themselves the daughters of teenage mothers. That's insane. It's like zina breeds zina, a child of a teenager, or like born into out of wedlock, whatever, is like three times more likely to end up in jail. Like 3 times more likely than another person to end up in prison, and they're more likely to have
Is it because of the dearth of father figures?
Yeah, I mean, this one was specific to teenage mothers, but even that, they say, like, if you just want to look at it in a very, very general way, they say look at the crime rate in areas where many children are born out of wedlock. I don't even, like, when you live in America, I don't really have to even present you with much.
Sometimes you do, because I feel like people don't pay attention to the consequences. The consequences are all around us, but we don't see it. So, for example, something really easy to understand, I think, is when you grow up without your father, and you don't know who your father is, and 1 out of every 2 children in the United States now are basically born outside of marriage. So when you lose your father, you don't just lose your father, even though that's a great loss. You also lose literally your entire family from your father's side.
Yeah.
That's another set of grandparents.
Yeah.
That's another set of uncles and aunts and cousins. And how many people, I mean, if you really believe that it takes a village to raise a child, then we have a lot of orphans growing up in the United States right now. Their mother's working. That's the single mom.
Yeah.
There's nobody in the house. Who's raising these kids? Right? And that's and if you look at zina, if you look at children as being victims of the love revolution or the sexual revolution or things like that, you really understand how Allah describes it as sabila. It is an evil path. It's an evil pathway for...
One of the points I love, because it's my point, right? And
it must be a great point.
That zina, that zina is the excuse for rape. The excuse for raping someone, what is it? It was consensual.
Oh, meaning like the what's the alibi or
okay. When someone
the defense against it.
The defense against zina is against rape is, Your Honor, it wasn't rape, it was zina. So like zina is so fine and calm and acceptable that I was just committing this thing, which is very acceptable. And most rape cases are not a woman jogging in the park and a complete stranger jumps at her. What are known as date rape, or
most of the cases are when the guy or the girl didn't understand no.
But
or
what I mean is,
communicate it well, or what have you.
But what I mean is, it's not a stranger who jumps at a complete stranger in the park. It's a coworker, a classmate, someone who knows her, she knows him. Yeah. And then the second part comes in. They don't understand what no means. But then when they go to court, and then it's like ridiculous how few of rape cases ever make it to a police station. 25% of them just get reported by the police. 75% nothing happens. And then of those that are reported by the police, a smaller percentage ends up in an arrest. And then from those that end up in an arrest, a smaller percentage makes it to court. And then when they get to court, his defense lawyer's main argument is, it was only zina, Your Honor.
Yeah.
So zina is the excuse for raping people now. I would always tell the class about, in Korea, they have an orphanage that has a box, just like at the bank or whatever, that because no one drops their baby off in the middle of the day.
Right.
People will be like, how could you do this? What kind of a mother? So they drop the babies at night. And sometimes in the morning, they're frozen to death. They're in a cardboard box. So this one orphanage in Korea invented this thing where there's a box, you pull it, you put the baby in, and you close it. So at least now it's in the warmth overnight.
Yeah.
And I'm just telling people, like, pretty soon they'll be like, why bother yourself and get out of the car? It's going to be a drive-through drop box for babies now. So orphanages, all these are ways society is trying to combat the effects of zina. So don't tell me it's just two people who love each other. Then the other thing, by the way, love prevails, and why don't you let people love each other? Yeah, in Islam, we're not at war with love. We have a solution for those who love each other.
Get married.
Zawaj, the hadith, right?
Get committed.
Yeah.
Get married,
Yeah,
khalas.
married.
And that's why even studies also show that, or statistics show that when a young man gets a woman pregnant, if he does stick around, most likely he faces hostility from her family because he ruined her life. She didn't graduate yet, and blah blah. So he leaves. They say even in cases where the family welcomes him and everything, he typically leaves after 2 years. Why? Because there's a difference between, I made a mistake and I've got my whole life ahead of me. He runs away versus you come and ask for the girl's hand from her father and you promise to take care of her. There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
So all these, and this is just 5 minutes, and
you're asking a guy to be committed as a consequence to a mistake versus the guy coming in with the objective of commitment.
Absolutely.
And everything that comes with that.
Huge difference.
I do believe that's one of the benefits of the Me Too movement and all those tweets and all of those articles and all that type of stuff, is that it kind of unmasked everything that was happening, and you see how abusive the relationships were and how convoluted the relationships were. Like, I remember reading articles about women who like participated in, sexual acts with bosses or what have you, and for all intents and purposes it was consensual. And it wasn't until days later that she felt like incredible shame. Yeah. Right? And so it almost became like retroactively considered to be non-consensual. Yeah. Right? And it's just so confusing.
It's the whole power dynamic factor, right? It's just like you want to get a promotion, you want to be liked by your boss, and then they're kind of leaning into you. Like how do you respond to that? Do you take that to HR? But then it's just like your word over theirs, and and then you also possibly have to face the backlash of like, what if it backfires on you and how other people look at you.
Absolutely.
All of that comes to play. I think this would be a good time to take a break.
Great. This seat is killing me.
We'll switch.
Me. No, it's all right, but I need a break from it.
Okay, that's cool.